Mark, I want to turn over to you. I know you've been with President Pence on many, many discussions talking about Iran. And I know Vice President has, when he visited Ashraf 3, he raised the issue of one of the biggest misunderstanding and the myth is that there is no alternative. But there is one, and he was referring to the leadership of Maryam Rajabi, the alternative of the National Council of Resistance, as a coalition that is popular. It has popularity within Iran, it has credibility, it has authenticity, it has that historic record that really stands on its own with compared to anyone else out there. Give us your thoughts about the importance of the alternative that resonates with the Iranian society and to what Senator Lieberman was talking about, the call for the non-nuclear secular republic Iran.
Well, thank you, Professor, and thank you for including me on this esteemed panel. I certainly appreciate it. I've had the opportunity to speak to organization of Iranian American communities 4 or 5 times, and as you noted, also in your camp in Albania. And it's always an honor to be with you, and it's impossible to go to Albania and not come away moved by the plight of many in MEK who have suffered at the hands of Raisi, and to also be moved by Maryam Rajavi and what you are, the movement you are leading. But I also echo the comments of Senator Lieberman that as great as it's been to have been a part of your events in Washington, D.C. and elsewhere across America, as well as Albania and now in Paris, I think we all look forward to the day that we can gather in an open, free, and democratic Iran for one of these panels in the future. You know, my morning started this morning with a text from Nasser announcing the victory in court. And, you know, who knew that it would take Iranian families assembling here in Paris to remind the French of the importance of the peaceful assembly and the right to free speech. But thank you for your leadership. It's important that it's be spoken even amongst some of our European allies who lose sight of what freedom really means. So thank you all for doing that. You know, Professor, I think it's important to note what the West can do to help create the conditions for an alternative. And, you know, my experience was serving in the Trump-Pence administration. Before serving as the Vice President's Chief of Staff, I was Director of Legislative Affairs for Donald Trump. And I know that we're a bipartisan organization. I think that there's no Democrat who's had, or no American, frankly, who's had a more clarion call for freedom and a stronger champion for freedom across the Middle East than Senator Lieberman. And he's somebody that we all, on our side of the aisle, respect enormously. But
They're here.
But I must say that through the prism that I had, you know, we had witnessed an Obama-Biden administration that I think in their effort to appease the Ayatollah and the mullahs had reached an Iranian nuclear deal that, despite its name, basically created a path for Iran to have nuclear weapons. We sent pallets of cash, billions of dollars to the mullahs in Iran. It emboldened the Ayatollah. And when we came into office, I can't tell you that when Donald Trump kept his commitment to pull us out of the Iran nuclear deal, how many European leaders called the White House begging us to reconsider and to please stay in the deal. And many of them, particularly, especially Macron here, enjoyed the commerce with Iran and didn't want to lose that. And it seems the wrong sacrifice on the backs of the freedom of those who are fighting for their own freedom in Iran, that the West would be making deals of that nature. And I'm really proud that our administration pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal. I'm proud that our administration levied enormous sanctions against Iran that I think crippled the, the despotic regime there. I'm incredibly proud of the decisive decision that the president and the vice president took to take out Qassem Soleimani on the battlefield.
That's right. That's right.
A man not only responsible for the murder of many Iranians, but also hundreds of American soldiers on the battlefields. And we can't talk about it in detail, but I think it's important to note that the elimination of the leading nuclear scientists in Iran was also an incredibly important message that was sent. And I'm proud that our administration was willing to take those stands that I think crippled the Ayatollah in ways that created conditions for change. I'm saddened to see some of the steps backward that I think the Biden administration was quick to want to re-enter into an Iranian nuclear deal. I think the first steps that they took of taking the Houthis off the terrorist watch list was another bad decision. When you see nations like Saudi Arabia filling the vacuum that America has left by wanting to partner with China and Russia, it's a startling observation. But when the Houthis are attacking them regularly and the Biden administration comes into office and immediately takes them off the terrorist watch list, we create that vacuum. And when America is weak and when the West is weak and we are not standing for the principles of freedom, it undermines those who are fighting like the MEK. And so I look forward to the day that we again return to America having a strong role in foreign policy and America having a strong role against Iran, and one that enforces sanctions and enforces discipline that actually creates and continues to create a condition for an alternative like MEK to continue to thrive. I would like to simply, I guess, wrap up with the comment that, despite concerns about where I see the current administration in America, I think there's obviously much hope. And there's hope in the numbers of you gathering. There's hope in your victories here this week. There's hope in Rajavi being invited to testify in front of the United States Congress and people recognizing your movement. And so the winds of change are blowing, and it's essential that your voice continue to be heard. So I thank you for making the stand that you have, the fact that more and more Americans are noticing, the Congress is noticing, and I believe it's going to be essentially important that the next administration in Washington, D.C. be one that has a clear-eyed view toward Iran.
Thank you. Marc, as we close this panel, I'd love to hear your thoughts and your message for the people of Iran when it comes to the issue of alternative.
Well, to the issue of alternatives and sort of the three things that we ask of y'all to keep in mind, our Bible tells us that where there is no vision, the people perish. And I think we should give more attention to the fact that you and MEK have laid out your vision in that 10-point plan. And I think that's essential for the people of Iran to know so they have a vision of where you're going. I'd say second that the senator spoke about the and I think that in that long arc of history that he also commented on, I think along that arc you will see the way that all despotic regimes have ended and the justice that eventually is meted out. And I think for those who question that, all you need to do is ask the French about King Louis and his ultimate fate. I think that's the fate of most despots, and I think that is something to keep in mind about the inevitability of freedom. I think what was so remarkable about our founders in America is they recognized that we're endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. And the notion of that was if you get your rights from the government can always take them away. But if they're endowed by your Creator, they're universal. They're not just American. They're laid out as life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and enumerated in our Bill of Rights. But they're universal rights because they're given to us by our Creator. And I think that that arc of history will continue to lead to those who stand in the way, that they end up meeting their ultimate fate. And I guess the last thing I would offer you is that for those of you who are Iranian Americans or from other Western democracies, I encourage you to support people who are rising up, who will have the courage to recognize that we're not advocating for moral equivalency across the globe. Support candidates who will step forward and actually ask for regime change in Iran. It's important that the West take that stand. It's important that we all do. So God bless you for what you're doing. God bless you for having all of us here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.